Hey, welcome to Your Best Podcast, your place for conversations, information, and experts that will help you to live your next best. Today, we have Ken Poucket, who is a coach of over 22 years, and he's going to be talking to us about creating a sustainable health routine. So sit back, relax, and get ready. Ken, I'm so happy to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining. I love that we are like aligned. We're just aligned. Okay.
It appears so.
I'm loving it. We're clearly vibing from the top, so it's very good. When it comes to creating a sustainable health routine, now clearly you are deep in this work. You've been a trainer for over 22 years. So let's start off with really like what got you into this career and why you decided to focus on this. What was it for you?
Well, initially, like a lot of people, I started off in my teenage years being an athlete in school. So I was introduced to working out, if we want to call it that, through sports. But there was a time where maybe in my early 20s, where I really saw how much it had benefited me personally, the whole environment of, healthy eating, going to the gym and exercising, the camaraderie at the gym, the whole nine yards. It was really a place that I felt comfortable and I really enjoyed being there. I had a phenomenal time. And I wanted to share that. I thought, well, if it's done this much for me, it can do that much for other people. So I wanted to share that with people.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So you were experiencing sports, and did you leave high school and do sports in college? Did you have a time maybe where that kind of structured physicality went away? How did you navigate maybe some of that? Or were you always just on this physical journey personally?
Well, when I was growing up, I had parents who were very supportive of my athletic endeavors. I had a father who uh, competed in bodybuilding. So when I turned 15, which is how old you had to be at the time to get a membership at a gym, it kind of wasn't like, hey, do you think it'd be cool to like go and try this working out thing? It was like, oh, hey, no, it's time for you to start working out. So I kind of got thrown into the deep end of the pool with around a lot of people who were very, very, very experienced at the time. I always tell everyone it's kind of like I had a trainer from day one because I was standing next to a person who just happened to be my dad, who had an unbelievable amount of knowledge, had competed in natural bodybuilding, so I didn't make any mistakes from day one, which a lot of young kids have to go through this kind of trial by fire where they make a lot of mistakes, they don't make progress, leads to a lot of people abandoning the pursuit. I never experienced any of that. And I competed in sports when I was in high school, got through that, got into my early 20s, and then decided to also compete in, bodybuilding, follow in the footsteps, went through my bodybuilding phase like a lot of young guys do. And so it was just off to the races from there. But I like to tell people I kind of watched this parade go by of
Mhm.
people that would come into the gym with the best of intentions and fall short.
Struggling to stay consistent with your fitness because of pain or limitations? I get it. I've lived it. That's why I created coaching that works for real people with real challenges. Fitness that meets you where you are to help you build your unbreakable body one session at a time. Get started today at TonyJacobson.com/coaching.
Mhm.
And so I kind of took that in, and we would always talk, and I would always ask like, hey, why do you think that happened to that guy? Or why do you think that ended up that way? And having these conversations, it kind of really ignited a passion in me to help other people because of the success that I had seen.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to what you were probably seeing in folks because for me, I've always naturally been athletic in the sense of wanting to like climb, run, walk, bike, do things, be active, right? I did
Mhm.
not have any kind of like structured sports experience. And so once I was out of school and just regular kind of playtime in school and that type of situation, not actual team sports or anything like that, I wanted and had this desire to, even though I was naturally physical in my life, I wanted to be the type of person that worked out. To me, I associated that as like, that is a person that is securing health for themselves. And it looked like a good thing to do. And so I remember joining a gym and like, I didn't know what to do there. I'm like, so I would find myself finding the most like comfortable machine, which was a cardio machine back then, and just going and doing that same machine. And then afterward, it was just boring and I wouldn't see any difference in my body. And so I just would drop off and then come back and have this type of relationship. And it wasn't until I found guidance that I was able to see like, oh, yeah, we all need help. So I love that you touched on that, because I think sometimes folks, whether they're someone like me that they have this continued desire that keeps them propelling forward, or they are someone that naturally you had support all around you. This was something that was in your family. I think that's usually the thought, is that, oh, people are just kind of like that. They just kind of, right? And that's not the case. I think in your case and in my case, it shows that we had to keep going and find different ways to do different things. Because I'll tell you something, from regular working out or sports to competitive bodybuilding, those are two universes totally apart. So speak a little bit on that.
1000%. I think that, and that was a big thing for me, is no one told me to compete. I came up onto that on my own. I actually had a woman that trained near us who was I don't know if you remember, but they were called Miss Galaxy competitions. They were used to be on ESPN. It was like a bathing suit competition and an obstacle course and a bodybuilding show. This is a really cool thing. I don't think they do them anymore. But she was a competitor in that. And she came up to me one day and she was like, dude, why are you not competing? You guys are training ridiculously hard. Why don't you compete? And I was like, oh, I did the usual, like, oh, I'm not big enough, or oh, I'm not this, or I'm not that. So nobody forced me to do it. And I just went off into my own. But to your point, I think that this is one of the things I'm highly, highly, highly critical of the fitness industry in general, which is weird because I'm somewhat a part of the fitness industry. So like it's contrarian, right? But that's one thing that they do that is horrible, is they assume a lot. They assume that people are experts right off the bat. They assume that they've had experience in these things when most people don't. I mean, there's really, really, really solid research out there that shows that 3% of women in the world work out like how we're talking about working out. It's probably even less than that. 8% of men in the whole world. So the overwhelming majority of people do not have what I would call a movement practice at all.
That's right.
So there's far more people that need help than know what they're doing in any given scenario. I talk about this all the time, where if you took whatever city your gym is in, the total population of that city, go to that gym at the absolute busiest time, Monday at 6 p.m., it's a fraction of the total population of the entire city. So there's far more people that need help than don't. And that's one of the things that has spurred me on through my entire career, is to kind of get away from these like fitness tropes that we all hear about, right, all the time, which I'm sure we'll talk about more, and into this, like, it's a movement practice. It's a practice like any other practice in your life.
Absolutely. You hit it right there. It's a practice like any other practice. That's excellent for any one of us. Any one of us, whether you are, so for example, if you're someone that is working out all the time, you might think, well, I've got this in the bag. Well, actually, throughout the course of our life, and I'm sure you'll agree, adjustments need to be made. This isn't, it's this, it's not this, and it's not this. It's like, we're adjusting, we're analyzing and changing. And then let's say you're someone who's totally sedentary. And I can attest to that too. Like, I was naturally active. I wanted to be someone that worked out regularly. I was on my journey, but then due to studies and my work as a coach and certain things that were happening in my life that I was very passionate about, next thing I knew, I was like, wow, I'm really sedentary actually. I've become really sedentary. And so we all have these things where we have to constantly adjust and we have to constantly change. So I love how you describe it as just a practice. It's not the end of your 30-day challenge. It's not the award from the
Correct.
competitive stage.
Well,
Mhm.
and that's the thing. So like we have, again, looking at taking a 20,000 foot view, that's why I call it movement. I don't call it exercise, because movement encompasses dance, gardening, yoga, training, like how we're talking about training, a whole gamut of things versus you say exercise to people and it could be them remember. It's kind of like sixth grade dodgeball. Like they remember this horrible, oh my God. Or they envision something like they've seen on television,
Right.
like, people crying and throwing up, and it's just this terrible experience, right? So we're trying to say, no, hold on a second here. We've got to take a step back. And that's why I'm constantly talking about that. And then I'm constantly talking about the coach or trainer or whatever verbiage a person wants to use, being empathetic and compassionate to the people that they're working with,
Yes.
so that they're understanding, like, okay, I fully well understand that you are not me. So I'm
Mhm.
not going to tell you to do what I do. I'm going to tell you to do what works for you. We're going to figure that out together.
That's so powerful. That is so powerful. So we're talking a little bit now about, of course, the physical components of this, right? The fact that it's not linear or not a trajectory solely upward. We're talking about how no matter where you are, you can be an expert on, meaning someone well versed in movement, but you may need to make adjustments or you're just coming out of something. When it comes to creating that sustainable, healthy routine, though, I think it always starts off in the mind. Can
Mhm.
you talk about that? Because we'll take it from the very step one. So let's say someone's watching or listening right now and they're like in total contemplation. They're like, they kind of want it, but they're also almost arguing with themselves at the same time, or talking themselves out of it because it just seems like a lot. What would you say to that person?
I would say that the first key to health is being honest with what you want. Now,
Mhm.
for not with what your husband wants, not with what your kids want, not with what your job wants, what you want. And a lot of people have never answered that question. That's why this is a challenging topic, right?
Mhm.
To ask most people to say, hey, what do you love enough to change for? You'll get gobbledygook, blah 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 blah, and then they'll say, my kids, and it's like, well, my earphone just fell out. That was embarrassing. So they'll say, oh my kids, right? Well, is it really? We've got to
Right.
sit down and have a conversation with that, because all holistic health coaching is just a long form conversation.
Yeah.
It's me as a coach saying, hey, how is that working for you? How is no sleep working for you? How is no movement practice working for you? How is not being honest with yourself and your needs on a daily basis working for you? Well, are you ready to change that? Some people aren't. Some
Mhm.
people are in the middle, like you kind of just talked about, and some people are ready to rock and roll. That
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about. So it's not more lunges. It's not a challenge. It's not carnivore. It's not any of these things. It's being honest to start.
That's very key. That is very key. And you're absolutely spot on with this because I feel like it is that in every step of the way. So, like, whether we're looking at our business and we're wanting to make some changes with our business or our relationship, with our health, with our spiritual walk, whatever it is, that honesty, both in not only being radically honest with ourselves in terms of what we want, which sometimes it's just we haven't asked or answered that in so long, we honestly don't know. And then also like really kind of being honest about where we are. Being honest about where we are can be shocking. When I was telling you, I had kind of discovered that I was sedentary, it really just came upon me because I was, from my experience, I was in a period of my life where I was very active, like just boot camps for fun, on the weekends, P90X all week, lifting, riding bikes. Like I was just like, yeah, dude, I'm loving this. And then I started to dive into spiritual studies for certification, and I started to coach more, and I started to do things that, because of the studying and the computer work and the work, I was sedentary, and I didn't even realize it. So all of a sudden I had remembered, I was like thinking, as we'll sometimes do. And I was like remembering how good I felt. And I was like, yeah, like I'm a champion. And then I'm like, girl, you have not done those workouts
Mm-hmm.
in a long time. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm living my glory days right now. Because the honest truth is that right now I'm really sedentary. So I love that you speak about honesty, because without that, we can't see anything.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's like a lot of people realize that they're sedentary in a emergency situation.
Yeah.
In what I would refer to as a nightmare. You're either running towards a goal or you're running away from a nightmare. So they went to the doctor, something bad happened. Oh my gosh, I need to fix X, Y, and Z. It's super totally overwhelming. Where do I start? Right? Then we go back to the fitness industry. We could argue maybe not well intentioned. Okay, they come to the gym and they're left to their own device, which is they haven't done anything. No other. I'm sure we can think about it, but no other facet or profession or anything in life is viewed that way.
Mm-hmm.
I know nothing about cars. I'm not going to go out in my driveway right now and start taking apart my engines. You know what? I just figured I'd just take apart my engine. I don't know. I would go to the mechanic, right?
Right. That's right. That's
But
right.
in fitness and health and wellness, it's different.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Now, I had seen that you had said that you came to realize, which is key here, that true wellness is a balance across mind, body, and lifestyle. What was it for you that brought that realization, especially with such a long path in wellness?
I will tell you exactly the moment that it happened. Okay, so I was coaching a woman. She was a psychologist, and I was in my mid 20s. The place that I worked at, we had a group of guys. We were all very athletic, competing in bodybuilding, MMA, jujitsu. Like we would go places, and people would be like, "Who are these guys?" Right? Like it was just we were as physical could be.
Mhm.
And so me, of course, being a little bit younger and having quite the ego at the time about that, right? I was talking to this lady one day, and we were going back and forth on, I can't remember what we were talking about. We were going back and forth on something, and she said, but you guys you're looking at it all wrong. You're messed up. And I said, well, what could you possibly mean by that? And she proceeded to rattle off, you guys got body dysmorphic disorder. You guys got social anxiety disorder. You guys got weird food hangups. So you got eating disorders. You got all of this weirdness. And I went home and told my girlfriend at the time, now wife, I said, am I giving people advice that's actually messing their life up?
Wow.
Because I'm giving them the advice that I would give myself at that time,
Right, right, right.
right? So like, if you didn't wake up first thing in the morning and train super hard, you're just a lazy person. It's not because you had everything up right. So to give you an easy example, so I
Mhm.
look back on that now and I go, oh my gosh, hopefully no one recorded half of the stuff that I said because it's probably quite embarrassing. But like Muhammad Ali said, if you view the world at 50 the same way you did at 20, you've wasted 30 years. So
Mhm.
there's been growth there, but that would be the key moment. And that was probably about 15, 16 years ago where I looked and went, oh my gosh, am I actually really helping people?
Yeah.
Or are they taking one step forward and two steps back?
Yeah. I love the perspective that you bring into this, because you also clue us into a little bit what I think could help someone in creating a sustainable, healthy routine, which is like realizing that their advisors are also people, and perhaps there is a need to advocate. So, would you speak to that? Because you also did indicate earlier how, folks will often just kind of say what's working for them without taking, which you now know and now do, you take the whole person in. So what would you tell someone who's trying to create a healthy, sustainable routine right now? They're trying to start a nice, good habit, right? And maybe they're getting some advice that doesn't sit well with them. How would you help them to decide, or what advice would you give to help them decide between just something they don't want to do or something that maybe it's not good advice for them? What would you say?
Sure. So first and foremost, being honest with what they want. So let's say that they have that, like right now. Okay, yeah, I love working out. I'm not competing in bodybuilding. No way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've eaten enough chicken breasts and eggs, hard-boiled eggs in my life right, I'm done with that. There's no amount of money in the world that you can give me that would make me want to do that again. I'm just past that phase of my life,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I would tell this person, after being honest with themselves, most, if not all, change processes fail because people simply run out of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, as to where the American mind thinks more, more, more. I need to go to the gym 6 days a week. I need to engage in this, quite frankly, death by exercise style program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty
Mm-hmm.
of them out there. Um, that I would go the opposite way. I'd say this person needs to cultivate energy. So the first couple things that you need to do need to be about building up a reservoir of energy so that way you have something to pull from when times eventually get challenging
Mm-hmm.
because you will have energy demands on you. So and they have to be something that is requires little energy but provides a big return on your investment. So the two easiest ones right off the bat are drink more water and
Mm-hmm.
sleep more.
Yes. Yes.
That's that.
Ooh.
I used to go when my kids were younger, I would go to their schools and I would do like the parent, career day, and the kids would ask me, like, hey, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I'm a health coach. And they'd say, oh, really, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I tell adults to drink water and go to bed. And they say, do they listen? And I said, sometimes. Uh, but 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 that would be it, right? It would because so if we look at it from a yin yang balance,
Mm-hmm.
sleep would be the ultimate yin,
Mm-hmm.
movement would be the ultimate yang.
That's
Stay in the
right.
middle, cultivate rest, cultivate energy. That way you have energy to give. You're not going to go to Target and leave with more money than you came in with.
It's not possible.
It's not possible, right? So that's the thing. So a lot of people, so this goes back to like how we view just our entire being, our entire physicality.
Yeah.
Working out is stress in the physical form, but you also have spiritual stress, emotional stress, mental stress, intellectual stress. If you're a student or you're studying for a course, like you mentioned earlier, you have all these social stressors. You have all these stressors that dump into this big bucket. And then I oftentimes think that people are far too hard on themselves
Yeah.
when they first start out because they're looking to these people, to your example earlier, that are maybe way up here and they don't understand how the person got from maybe down here to up here, and it's not effectively discussed.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're
Mm-hmm.
sitting there. It leads to a lot of like, well, I just don't understand. It didn't work for me. How are they different? It leads to a lot of negative thought patterns with that,
Yeah.
and eventually failing.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. You've already dropped so many great tips. Rest is such a huge one. Drinking water, which I know, and it's one of the things you'd think we know it. So many of us do not do it. So many people
No,
are not drinking water. Like water is like the last thing. If anything, there are people that never drink water. They're like, well, there's water in my coffee. I'm like,
no, not the same thing.
thank
No,
you.
no, same thing. What I always tell people on that is, can you see through the glass? Like if it's in a glass, can you see through the glass? Then it's not water.
Exactly. So see, that's you already so many tips. Now, let's say someone is looking at it like, I can't have a healthy routine because they view it as expensive. They view it as something that is out of their reach financially. What would you say to someone that has that as a barrier right now?
I would say that's a limiting belief.
That's right.
I'd say right there, that's a hang up or Paul Chek calls these mind viruses. That's a mind virus. That is
Mhm.
something that has gotten into your brain that you now think that certain way when confront, this is the challenge as a coach now, when confronted with that, how do we get a person, how do we clear that? Right? So I just gave you two tips that are essentially free. Sleep is free,
Mm-hmm.
and water, I mean, for all intents and purposes, is pretty close to free. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
out of the tap, whatever. Okay, so those two right there, walking's free,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there are far more things. So it really just kind of looks at it as that's kind of a glass half empty, glass half full kind of a mindset. I would say that that's a smoke screen for something more serious
Agreed.
that we'd have
Yeah.
to do a little bit of investigating on.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. Really, really powerful. Another thing that I have seen come up for folks is stress around it. So there's like that initial stress of, okay, I want to make this change, whether it's I want to work out or I want to walk or I want to eat healthier. But then there's this stress around it. Maybe, fear of not being able to come through or the extra steps they're going to need to take to implement. What is something you would say to help a person that is having that type of thinking pattern, that type of stress come on?
Well, I would say what are they trying to, what image of themselves are they trying to live up to? Because I totally understand that. There's a certain current that runs through, again, through the fitness industry where this will be monumental to upkeep for life,
Yeah.
right? So they don't think in terms of like what you said earlier, the undulating pattern, the ups and downs of life. They think I'm going to have to work out 6 days a week, an hour and a half a day, every day. Because the fitness industry, if you listen closely, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
have trained ears, and you hear some of these people on Instagram and TikTok talk, you would think, well, I'm never going on a vacation, never going out to dinner. Kids can never have cake at a birthday party. It's going to be 6 days a week. It's just insanely hard, intense training for life, forever,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So then we have to sit back as the industry and say, well, I just wonder why people aren't into this. Well, it's a no-brainer, right? So I think that, so first and foremost, really starting off with what are, in a realistic fashion, you could call it smart goal setting. There's lots of terms for it. What are you really looking to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
Because the people, and going back to that rest and sleep thing, it's for years. Every place, like big, before I started doing my own stuff, when I worked at big box gyms, everybody would say, "Oh, there's Ken. Ken's the trainer that tells people not to train." And I know it might seem like that, but what I was saying is, if there's one huge key takeaway is the better you sleep, the better you eat, and the better you hydrate, the less you have to do, and the more of what you do counts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So so people for years I've seen get phenomenal results exercising 2 days a week, managing all those other factors, eating as well as they can. It does not take a lot
I love that.
realistically.
I love
It
that.
just has to be programmed properly.
Yes. Yes. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. So, for anyone watching or listening, what do we all know, right? We all know we've left the house in a hurry because things just started off late, and so we didn't eat right in the morning, and so now we're already kind of stressed. And then so when it's time to eat, the last thing we're thinking of is maybe creating a healthy dish for ourselves or taking that extra time to swing by a healthier place that's out of the way. It's just easy to get something super fast because we're already at a lower energy level. And then now, like, we didn't eat something really well. The day started off kind of off. And so it just kind of cascades into then the next step. Then the next step, well, maybe we plan to work out today, but man, it's just now we're tired. We're not feeling that great after what we ate. We were already stressed from the morning, and then on and on and on and on. It just kind of compiles. Whereas, I slept great. I woke up earlier than the alarm sometimes because I'm just naturally filled with my sleep tank is filled. And then now I mosey on and do extra things, maybe drink my water. make a nice breakfast. And suddenly you just have this spatial experience of your day and of the choices you get to make. At least that's how it has felt for me in both instances, where it's like, ugh, I'm low and I can't even think of doing a healthy meal, even though it's easy, versus, yeah, I'm filled today. So I have extra even to feed myself well, do an extra self-care routine, etc. So key, spot on right there. Definitely.
And we call that a living philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and whether people like to believe it or not, they are wearing their living philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody has ample opportunity. It just depends on what they're choosing to spend their energy on. Like the old adage, adults say choose to, children say have to.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to move, you're choosing to. You don't have to eat well, whatever that might mean for a person. You're choosing to. That's taking ownership back. That's
Mm-hmm.
you living life, not life happening to you. A human being versus a human doing.
Yes, that is so key. So, what are your best 3 tips for keeping a positive mindset around creating a good health routine?
That's a great question. There's so many there's so many to choose from, but it's interesting. 3 is a good number because you can't change, I feel, more than 3 things at one time. So I would say number 1, practice the 80-20 rule. Or maybe I should say in no particular order, because then someone's going to call me out and say I should have put number 1, number 3, whatever. We'll say in no particular order, practice the 80-20 rule, meaning 80% of the time, do your thing, work towards your goals in the best way that you see fit and possible. And then you know what? The other 20% of the time, live your life. Have a cushion here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because too much fire burns the pot,
Mm-hmm.
right? People go out, like we talked about earlier, they have great intentions. Every January 1st, here comes great intentions into the gym. And then research shows by the second week of February, they're out the door. Well, what happened? They got hurt. They simply ran out of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So practice the 80-20 rule. I think everyone would benefit from sleeping more and drinking more water. And then the third tip would kind of be on a holistic front, be kind to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? You didn't get where you're at now if it's negative in one day. You
Mm-hmm.
had to work at it, right? A lot of people don't like to hear that. When they get, like, whether it's a medical diagnosis that's bad, where like a lot of these diseases, you've had to work at it for a decade or
Yeah.
more in the wrong direction, right? So success isn't gonna happen overnight, but that's why it's called a practice, because every day you're building upon the next day, upon the next day. And no one expects I don't know of any coach that certainly I would ever want to work with that would expect a person to be perfect all the time. So hit the pressure release valve uh, on that. That would probably be off the top of my head. Put me on the spot. That would be my three tips I'd give.
Those are solid. Those are awesome. This has been
And
so
notice how none of
wonderful.
them. And notice how none of them. I didn't say, "Hey, well, you make sure that you do reverse lunges," right? Like none of them had to do with working out, right? You can, and I don't mean to be so like, I'm not trying to be anti that or anything, but it's just like, we're kind of putting our eggs in the wrong basket. You mentioned it earlier, but as far as the time restraints, people are sleeping now less than, if you look at the research in the 20s, people were sleeping upwards of 10 hours a night. Now it's 4.
Mm.
We're stimmed out of our mind on energy drinks and coffee and all this stuff. It's time to hit the reset button. It's time to slow down. So yeah, you're right. Do some people need to move more on the left hand side? Absolutely. But you know what? On this right hand side over here, a lot of people need to take a nap and they need a hug and a nap. Okay. Right. Get back to the middle.
That's right. That is very sound and very key. We are aligned on a lot of things outside of our wardrobe today. I'm feeling all of this. This is great. So, yes, thank you for all of these phenomenal tips that have truly spoken to the whole person and allowed that whether it's the beginning, whether it's the middle, allowed us all to see different ways to create a healthy routine, no matter where we're at. Tell us all the ways that we can continue to learn about your work and connect with you.
Well, if you can go to my website, it's theholisticrevolution.net. So that's holistic with a W, so WHOLISTIC, revolution.net. You can follow me on Instagram at The Holistic Revolution and Facebook at the same thing.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Your Best Podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and even give us a review. And hey, don't forget, there are plenty of resources in the show notes for you. See you in the next episode.